Hi, this is Cheryl St.Pierre of Majestic Artworks. In this video, I want to show you how to make these double swirl teardrop crystal earrings. What this does is it really shows that these are handmade. A machine can't make earrings like this, and it just adds so much pizzazz and character to what would otherwise be just crystal dangles that looks like anybody could make. And once you get this down, yes, it's got some pizzazz and style and even attitude. These ones I made a while back, so they're nicely oxidized, and that's what the copper does. And it just gives drama and character. This was a light pink, but today I'm using the supplies that I got from Beebeecraft in my last box opening, and these are 15 by 10 millimeter crystals, and got some pretty colors in here. And I think we're gonna make these in the blue, the light blue. There's an aqua blue as well. That's the aqua blue. Whoops. And the red is really lovely as well. But I think I'm gonna make the light blue. It's gonna go with the bracelet that we just made with the Beebeecraft supplies. So I'm going to use the teardrops, and then as the accent beads on top, I'm going to use the white color with the pearlized AB on it as the top accent. This is why I got these, is because they make wonderful accent beads to a lot of my projects. So I use them a lot because they go with everything. Okay, so let's begin. Okay, so as per normal, I have your supply list written in the description below. And what you're going to need is 2 pieces of 20 gauge wire that are 8 inches long. You're going to need a pair of ear wires of choice. You're going to need your 2 large teardrop crystals. And this is the smallest I would use. You could use larger, but this is 10 by 15. And they've got the hole down the center from top to bottom. And then 2 accenting 6 by 4 rondelles. You could use smaller, but I like the bigger one because it pushes out the wire on top to make it easier to work with. You will see what I mean when we get there. And so the first thing you got to do is you need to make some coiled head pins out of these wires. And I want you to take your ruler at 1/2 inch, which would be 1 1/4 centimeters for those using metric, and bend it, and it doesn't have to be exact, approximate. You can make it a little bit larger, especially if you have difficulties making the beginnings of your spiral. I'm just going to start one here. We did lots of this with the bracelet. So you're going to take your tips of your pliers, make that curve, crimp it down, crimp it in, like so. And the reason why we have this band, and I'm going to make it a sharper band, is it gives a nice finish to your head pin. It's the right angle. Okay, and then you're gonna straighten the wire. We want it to be strong at that point. That's going to be hidden under the bead, so if you mar it, that's okay. And it could be bent just a little. It's straightened up on me, like that. Okay, so you need 2 of those. Okay, so I have the 2 head pins made. And because we're mirroring these earrings, I'm going to get you to alternate between the 2 so that we do the same steps. So you're going to put your teardrop on and your rondelle on like that, and do the same for the other one. Okay, so now we're going to make our loops on top of the earrings, and take your round nose pliers, and you want a distance to do 3 wraps and then be a tiny bit loose, not very loose, just so it doesn't break the glass. And if the direction of your spiral is not the way you want it, it's easy to fix. So don't stress about that right now. We can change that up later. So we want to keep this in focus. So I'm doing forwards loop or regular loop right now on this one. So you want it nice and straight, centered, which it is. And give it 3 nice, neat wraps if possible. And it moved on me, so I'm going to squish it back up. So hard to do in front of the behind the camera. Okay, I'm going to use the beads to push that up. And I'm tightening it. Okay. Well, I've only, yeah, there. It's actually 2 wraps, but it looks like 3. That's what we want. Okay. There we go. I don't want it any tighter than that. So I could have, I think I moved it a little bit. And now the other one we're going to do in reverse. Now I know I've explained this many times, but have patience with me because not everybody's seen all my videos. So to do a reverse, you do this part exactly the same, but when you bring the wire around, we're going to put it on the right side instead of the left side. And that will make the wire go the opposite direction. Now for wrapping, then you can flip it over so that it's in the front. But if you see, it's going in the opposite spiraling direction. Okay, 1, 2. Okay. So there we are. We've got them the same, but they're going in different directions. I'm going to straighten these loops out a little bit better. They're on camera. It's harder for me to make round loops sometimes. So I'm just going to push them down like this. And it rounds them up. Mind you, in this design, it is rather hidden. I'm just like to show those little techniques. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is I'm supporting this with my thumb, and I'm going to make a loop on top in front of the wraps. Okay, but I want it sitting right in front of the rondelle. See that? And then I see that the wire's kinked. I'm going to straighten it with my fingers like that. Okay, and now we're going to do the same thing with the other earring. And I'm just, see, the spirals ended up being opposite directions. That's perfect. Okay, so she was half twisted because I didn't have it facing forward. Okay, so I see that the loops, the wraps aren't quite the way I want them. So I'm going to tighten them up like this. Just bit by bit, and it'll straighten itself out. Okay, and now I'm supporting this side because we're going the other way. Okay, and halfway in front of the rondelle, and I want to check to see that the loops are similar, just opposites, and that's pretty good. Okay, and I'm gonna straighten this wire. That's good. Okay, so what we want now is to kind of hug around the bead like this, and we're starting from the left side, and we're going to go to the right side of the spiral, and I want this facing forward. I'm going to grab my chain nose pliers, twist it a bit. There. Okay, so like that. And then we're going to come around like that. Okay. And now we're going to do the same thing with the other earring. So this one we're starting at the right hand side, and we're going to go to the left side of the spiral. And this one needs a little bit of adjusting too. Okay. And so like that. It's actually quite simple to do when you get that. See, this loop is kind of like a springboard for doing the swirl. Okay, so now we want to kind of try to go parallel is not quite the word I'm wanting because it's not a straight line, but you know, very similar to being parallel. So I want to use the fat point of the teardrop as my point for making a swirl here, and I'm holding it with my fingers. I'm using my thumbnail to start off the swirl, and I'm swirling like this. Okay, and then I want to try, and if you have to push it over to do it, that's okay. I want to try and make that kind of parallel right in this part, like that. Okay, so now we're going to try doing the same thing with the other earring before we move on, because we want to get this little loop in a similar spot and similar size. I mean, it's impossible to get it perfect, but we're going to try. Okay, so it's at the same size. It's pretty close. Okay, and then get it parallel. And they're pretty close. That's what we want. Okay, so the next step is we're going to wrap around here and give this a collar in between the two beads. So we're going to support it here because we don't want it to move. We want that to stay there. And we're going to wrap around. And we want it We want it to go underneath this wire and then meet up with that wire there. So see how we've got this long tail here? We're going to snip it about 1/2 inch long, 1 1/4 centimeters. We want it to be extra long because we want something to grip. And then I want you to take your chain nose pliers and curve that in. We're going to be snipping that part off. This is just our lead to go underneath this wire. And see, this is why I like the bigger bead here, because it holds out the wire, gives us a space to work there. If you had a smaller bead, it wouldn't be so generous with space. Okay, so next thing I want to do is push this through so that we can grab onto it like this. Okay, and tighten it around the collar of the bead. So I've got it pretty tight. It's not level in all places. So I'm leveling it off with my thumb. Okay, I've got it tight now, pulled it tight. We don't want it going between the two beads. We want it going around the join of the two beads, like that. Now I want to snip it to about right there where it's going to join up and make it look neat. So I'm going to hold it upside down. We only want to snip the one wire, so be careful where you snip. And I can always shorten it if I make it too long. So now I'm going to try gently crimp it in there. And no rough edges. And that one is done. And that's lovely. Okay, so now I'm going to put the ear wire on it. And that one is done. And it looks straight. One thing you need to check is not quite straight. We want these two loops to be parallel. There. Okay. And then it's going to hang right. And it does. Okay. So the other earring, we're going to do this exact same thing. So we're going to hold it in place there. And we're going to bend it down to wrap around like that. The bead. We're going to stop about there, give us some working room. We're going to cut it off about 1/2 inch, a little bit more, to give us the working length we need. Gonna bend that end in there so we can tuck it under like that and grab. And again, I'm supporting this so we don't pull it out of shape. And we can still pull on it quite tight. And there it's in place. And we snip it off carefully. I want it this way. I'm going to lift it up. I'm scared I'm going to mark that wire. Okay. Crimp it down. Done. Now this was bent out forward a bit. I just compressed it a little. Make those parallel. They are pretty parallel. It's pretty good. Don't need to move it. Put the ear wire on. And that one is done. Okay, so there they are. Aren't they lovely? Now, if you didn't want the copper to go dark on you, you could lacquer them at this point and keep them nice and bright. But I think that the darkening of the wire just gives it that antique type look. Okay. Well, thank you for joining me in this little video, and hope to see you in more. Please subscribe and join me with future videos, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.